The Kashmir Files Review and Message Impact. फिल्म एक ऐसा मीडियम है जिसको 20th सेंचुरी के मिरेकुलस इनोवेशंस में शुमार किया जा सकता है। वीडियो और ड्रामेटिक्स का एक बेहतरीन मुजस्समा बनकर फिल्म सामने आई। कश्मीर फाइल्स को मूवी मैजिक का एक बेहतरीन नमूना कहा जा सकता है। मैं एक कश्मीर का बाशिंदा हूं और क्योंकि यहाँ सिनेमा नहीं है जिसके बारे में फिल्म में भी बोला गया है, मैं ये फिल्म सिनेमा में नहीं देख पाया हूँ। मैंने कहाँ देखी है, मैं ये एक वाले जुर्म कैमरा पे नहीं कर सकता। एंड प्लीज डोंट टेक दिस एज पाकिस्तान। Hello everyone, this is Syed Mudawar and you're watching The Poverty. First of all, the movie might be a bit hard to digest for a lot of people. I would say that in the book of law, they still prove to be allegations as legal action on these incidents is inconclusive at this point. The allegations leveled in this movie are even against the judiciary that it refused to hear them, the executive didn't and the parliament didn't. And now they have been heard by a filmmaker, Vivek Agnihotri, who is a man known for his niche kind of filmmaking. Having experimented with erotic thriller and suspense movies earlier, Vivek has decided to jump in the Hindu nationalist wave by creating a movie on this subject. The exodus has happened in the post-independent India and therefore is a big question mark on the whole Indian establishment that allowed this to happen under their eye. While the Kashmiri Muslim in general is the antagonist of this partially fiction and partially reality-based movie, the movie has put the microscope on the exodus of Pandits and calls it a genocide. It is a movie made through a minority view and is an absolute work of genius in appealing to the emotions of a victim. The movie has been received with moist eyes in India by its viewers and the movie is being pushed by its viewers through social media as a must-watch. Well, the movie as a movie is a fabulous piece that shows prowess of Vivek Agnihotri as a filmmaker. The movie has touched every aspect of Kashmir through a Kashmiri Pandit's eye and shows how a minority gets terrorized when religious slogans are uttered by a majority. The politicization of religion by the majority is the cry of this film. The migration of Kashmiri Pandits is not something that is hidden from anyone. The topic of Kashmiri Pandits migration has often not received the empathy the issue deserved from India in general. The film is set in two time zones, 1990 and 2020, and starts with a scene of children playing cricket in the 90s and a live match commentary is being played on a radio placed nearby. Imran Khan is hit for a 6 by Sachin and Shiva the young kid hits a 6 as well and starts chanting Sachin, Sachin. The Muslim kids start quarreling with the kid and Muslim teenagers come in and start beating Shiva. Shiva's friend, who is a Muslim kid, saves him and this might be the only time in this movie when a Kashmiri Muslim has helped a Pandit. The scenes that follow are of violence on streets and the horrors are witnessed by kids. The slogans of Jihad and Free Kashmir are shown while Pushkar Nath, played by Anupam Kher, the grandfather of Shiva, receives a phone call from his home that Shiva has not come home. Pushkar Nath has been a teacher and is an actor who is shown rehearsing for Mahashivratri drama. He leaves in a rush with his makeup on. With his face covered in glue and forehead having the Sai-white tilak, he rides the scooter and picks up Shiva and Shiva's friend on the scooter as the violence continues on the streets. Farooq Malik Bitta, played by Chinmay Manlekar, is an amalgamated character that has traits of Yasin Malik and Bitta Karate, and hence the name Farooq Malik Bitta. And Farooq Bitta is the area commander who has reached the home of Pushkar Nath following his deputies who have been shown the way to Pushkar's son by his neighbor who tells them that he is hiding in the drum of rice in the house. Pushkar's son has been shown to be innocent through the dialogue of the film that doesn't establish the character of Pushkar's son, and the audience is supposed to believe that the son has no role in the politics of the region. He gets murdered by Farooq Malik Bitta, who fires at the drum right in front of the eyes of Sharda, the wife of the person who gets shot. Pushkar enters the home and on watching the scene starts crying and is pinned down by the gunmen who beat him to the pulp and get hold of Shiva as well. Krishna is the toddler who is lying on the side and Bitta conditions the safety of the family if Sharda eats the rice soaked in blood of her husband that is lying on the ground. The film takes a cut to present times and Brahmadatt, a retired IAS officer played by Mithun, wakes up in bed along with his wife Lakshmi, played by Mrinal Kulkarni, who are waiting for Krishna, the grandson of Pushkar Nath Pandit, with the remains of Pushkar. Other friends of Pushkar are also coming for the disposition of the ashes of Pushkar over his house, as it is his last wish to have the ashes sprinkled in his ancestral home in Kashmir. The friends of Pushkar arrive first and decide amongst themselves that no politics shall be discussed in front of Krishna. The friends include Dr. Mahesh Kumar, played by Prakash Balavadi, retired DGP Hari Narayan, played by Puneet Isar, journalist Atul Vishnu Ram, played by Atul Srivastava. The friends of Pushkar arrive first and decide amongst themselves that no politics shall be discussed in front of Krishna. The friends include Dr. Mahesh Kumar, played by Prakash Balavadi, retired DGP Hari Narayan, played by Puneet Isar, journalist Atul Vishnu Ram, played by Atul Srivastava. Then Krishna, played by Darshan Kumar, is a student at a Delhi college and is going to contest in student elections and has no idea how his parents died in reality comes in. Krishna has been brought up by his grandfather and has been dealing with a lot of contradictory narratives on the political reality of Kashmir. On one side, his grandfather, since the migration, has been asking for abrogation of Article 370, and on the other side, in his college, he sees a different narrative, as in the college, slogans of Free Kashmir are loud and in vogue. The professor who is running this narrative in the college is Radhika Menon, played by Pallavi Joshi. Due to the influence of the professor, Shiva decides to take part in the college elections and is in support of the Azadi narrative for Kashmir, given the majority of voters being Kashmiri Muslim students. In a scene, he debates with his grandfather, who asks him not to join politics, and especially not in the name of Azadi, as it is anti-India and anti-Kashmiri Pandits. The scenes of Pandit migration come back on the screen and murders of Pandits are continued to be shown, and the nature of these murders is very disturbing to see. The way in which these murder scenes have been written deserves commendation to the screenplay writers and the cinematographer. Shiva joins Brahma and others and they sit for dinner. Brahma's wife Lakshmi gets a video call from her daughter, who lives in the US, and on the call talks to Shiva as well. On Shiva's reference to his parents' accident, the daughter of Brahma and Lakshmi raises her brows on the accident reference, as she knows his parents have been killed by the terrorists. Her reaction raises a question in the mind of Shiva, and he asks Lakshmi about the reason for her daughter reacting the way she did on hearing about the accident of his parents. Lakshmi avoids this question, and he asks her to show him the picture of his parents. Then the conditions of the Pandits are defined and the exodus gets termed as a genocide by Brahma. This is when Krishna gets to know the reality about the death of his parents. The picture cuts back to 1990 and slogans of Relive, Galiv ya Chaliv, that mean either convert or join us, or die or leave, and Kashmir ban Pakistan Batavrusti Batnyansan, that loosely means Kashmir will become Pakistan without the Pandit men but with their women, get chanted on loudspeakers of the mosques. The scenes of murders depict the cruelty at its epitome and yet manage to keep the reality factor intact. Since this film is partially fiction, one can say that this sort of barbarity can be taken as creative liberty. The movie actually is a struggle for Shiva to find out the reality of Kashmir and on which side he ends up. Who does Krishna side with at the end is the climax, as he has a speech to make for the presidential election. He gets to meet Farooq Bitta as well, and he gets a denial of the crimes committed by him from him. This is a film that is intelligent enough to feel real for an unaware viewer who can take this film to be the whole truth. The premise behind the whole unrest is missing, and what the film actually tries to prove and show is that every Kashmiri Muslim is the enemy of the state of India. You can't blame the Pandits to relate with this movie, as this is the Kashmir they saw while being here before their exodus. What this issue correlates is the period of 1990s and 2020. The 30 years that passed are missing from the story. The views that a Pandit based on what he saw in 1990 in Kashmir is a bit discomforting for the eye of an honest critique, because no matter how much you want to empathize with the Pandit, but his description of the whole story is not enough to explain Kashmir in 2022. The film is using the trick of Russian montage and showing two contrasts of two different time zones battling each other. This is one of the most cunning uses of this technique done by Vivek Agnihotri. The period of Pandit exodus was 1990, when Pakistan dominated Kashmiri soil through its proxies in Kashmir, who were a lunatic fringe, according to Dr. Javed Iqbal Shah, who is an acclaimed political analyst. and has been highly vocal historically against what has happened to the Pandits. The montage technique is using the plight of Pandits to nullify the intellectual sympathy Kashmir has earned due to rampant violence not only in 1990 but from 1990 till 2022. The contrast between the murdering scenes and the scenes from the college are being used to make the Azadi narrative look like evil's voice, which has been very smartly played by Pallavi Joshi, that is the character of Radhika Menon. She has delivered just what the director has asked from her. She imitates a modern day liberal enough to sound authentic and uses her acting to make the intellectual look foolish and biased as well. Long scene montage of cutting from 1990 to 2020 gives the feeling to a viewer that वहां कश्मीरी पंडित मर रहा है और तुम यहां आजादी आजादी गा रहे हो. 3 days earlier, 3 sarpanchs of different political parties have been assassinated in Kashmir, and incidentally, these sarpanchs were not Kashmiri Pandits but Kashmiri Muslims. Since then, militant insurgency from Pakistan has been reduced to a few hundred from thousands of militants, all due to the contribution and effort of the J&K police, Indian Army and Ikhwanul Mukhbirin. The role of these parties is absent from the film as it closes at the massacre scene of Pandits, including Shiva's mother and Shiva himself as well. What has followed the exodus is a time leap to 2022. The simultaneous killings of Kashmiri Muslims siding with India are brushed off by a dialogue that says that सारे moderate Kashmiri Muslims को मार डाला, which is insulting as well as deliberate to stress on the Hindu versus Muslim narrative. The non-inclusion of these elements still shows that something is to be avenged from the Kashmiri Muslims, whose one generation is missing from the census and Article 370 has been revoked. All in all, this is a master political film that is giving rise to this effect, and warning here from Dr. Javed Iqbal Shah, who is of the opinion that this might put thousands of Kashmiri Muslims' lives at risk, and these Kashmiris are either studying or working at different places in India. So please spread this message that Kashmir has nothing left to be avenged from, and Pakistan and India can focus on developing their respective dominions of Jammu and Kashmir. कुछ तो रहम खाओ सियासत से अभी क्या बचा है रियासत में अभी. Share your thoughts on the subject in comments and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.